The Loud House is an animated American series that premiered on Nickelodeon on May 2nd, 2016. It has the classic 2D Nicktoon aesthetics that Nickelodeon is so famous for. The success of the show can be gauged by the fact that it has 7 seasons, rivaled SpongeBob at one point, and evokes strong reactions from a huge online fanbase. The series is set in a fictional town in Michigan called Royal Woods, and revolves around the chaotic, everyday life of Lincoln Loud. He is the middle child and the only son of a large family of 11 children. The 11-year-old main character is an avid reader of comic books and frequently talks to us, the viewers. He is a charming boy who likes to help others and make them smile. Because of his uncanny habits, he often gets into trouble, or gets others into trouble. He's also bullied at school sometimes, but he always makes sure to get revenge on them. All of his 10 sisters have distinctive personalities. Lori, the eldest sister at 17 years, is bossy and often condescending towards her siblings. She often talks on her smartphone with her boyfriend Bobby. Lenny is a 17-year-old dumb blonde who is friendly but naive. 16-year-old Luna is often seen with her signature purple guitar, as she is a free-spirited musician. Every family has a practical joker who loves doing pranks. In The Loud House, that character is 15-year-old Luan, who also owns a ventriloquist dummy named Mr. Coconut. The 5th oldest sister, Lynn, is 14 years old and often engages in sports and physical activities. The 8-year-old Lucy is a goth girl who's always sarcastic and cynical. Next are the 6-year-old twins, Lana, the fun-loving tomboy, and Lola, the beauty-obsessed girly girl who regularly competes in pageants. The brains of the family is the 4-year-old child prodigy, Lisa Loud. Last, the youngest sister is the 15-month-old baby Lily. Apart from the sisters, Lincoln's friend Clyde McBride also frequently visits the Loud household and has an unrequited crush on Lori. Episode 1A. The story opens up with a commercial of a show named Academy of Really Good Ghost Hunting, or ARRG, which Lincoln claims to be the greatest show ever. He then breaks the fourth wall to talk to us about how all his sisters descend to the living room to watch TV every Sunday night. Hence, the plan to distract his sisters from the TV finally commences. Lincoln first distracts his twin sisters, Lola and Lana, with a tea party and frogs. The very next minute, the twins are fighting over something. Meanwhile, Lincoln distracts his puny sister, Luan Loud, by letting her film the twins fight. Lisa goes back to her room once she gets her materials so she can work on her experiment. TV seems to be the last thing that's on her mind. Next, Lincoln distracts Lynn with a helium-filled football. At the same time, Lenny comes walking down the hall. He just distracts her by telling her she has a zit on her nose. Lenny runs off yelling, revealing how extremely superficial she's going to be. To distract Lori, Lincoln dials her boyfriend Bobby and gives her the phone. Then, Lincoln puts baby Lily to sleep in a laundry basket that's just randomly sitting out in the hallway. However, he forgets Lucy Loud, who has already got a hold of the TV remote. He then convinces her to use an old black and white TV that ends up knocking out the power to the whole house. Everyone meets in the middle of the hall and starts blaming Lincoln when he says the old TV knocked out the power. Even though Lincoln volunteers to go flip the circuit breaker, Lori decides to assert her seniority. She then volunteers herself to flip the switch, but chickens out at the last minute. After Lucy scares Lynn, all the sisters start arguing with each other for no reason. Suddenly, Lincoln tells everyone that he can fix the mess he made by going down into the basement. Eventually, everyone goes downstairs with Luan's camera that has night vision. In the basement, the Loud siblings all go downstairs and get scared by a bunch of sound, along with a pile of laundry that looks like a mysterious figure in the dark. Once the lights come on, everyone races to the TV, but Lincoln gets there first like he wanted to do. However, he ends up missing his show and makes a fuss about it. At the end, Lincoln ends up watching the recording of him and his siblings caught on Luan's camera. Episode 1B. Lincoln is playing a virtual reality video game where he's running around the house chasing zombies. However, he ends up in the forbidden spot, his eldest sister's room, who yells at him for doing so. Following this, he sets his gaming glasses down and forgets them in the bathroom. When he finds them smashed later on, he believes that Lori did it. Lincoln, of course, is angry about this, so he decides to write a hateful letter to his elder sister. He then reads the letter over the phone and sends her a voicemail. We don't hear it because Luna blocked it out with guitar playing, but there's a twist. Lori comes to his room and gives him a new virtual reality gaming glass, and she's impressed he didn't freak out. Guilty about the voicemail, Lincoln now tries to delete the message from Lori's phone. He crawls through the Loud house's vents and tries to get to her phone, but ultimately doesn't succeed. Lori ends up with her phone after all and checks her messages. Luckily, she doesn't care about Lincoln's message, so she deletes it before she hears the whole thing. Lincoln says the next time, he'll just talk to his sisters if he has a problem. Episode 2A. Later on, we see Lincoln getting bullied at school. Although we don't see his bully Ronnie Ann on screen, she terrorizes him throughout the day. First, she pulls his pants down, then ties his laces together, causing him to fall face first. At lunchtime, she places a balloon on his seat, and later that day, Ronnie places a pile of garbage in his locker. Each time he gets embarrassed, the entire school mocks him. On his way home, he tells his friend Clyde everything about what happened today. In response, the latter points out that the bully has left a chewing gum on his hair and suggests he seeks help from his sisters. However, Lincoln is reluctant to do that as they always manage to make things worse. From a series of flashbacks, we see that the sisters never take time to listen to him and figure out the right way to deal with the issue. At home, he unsuccessfully tries to hide the gum on his hair from his sisters. Eventually, they find out and we see firsthand why their meddling is such a problem to Lincoln. All of them start heaping in suggestions on how to get back at the bully, from complaining to the principal to writing an insulting stand-up comedy set to downright fighting the bully. Without listening to what Lincoln has to say, Luan grabs a random boy to punish him for the bullying. However, when Lincoln reveals that the bully is Ronnie Ann, a girl, they come to the conclusion that she likes their brother. Immediately, they urge him to go kiss her and cheer him on as he leaves to do so, but Ronnie Ann punches him and that leaves Lincoln with a black eye. Back home, he finally snaps at his sisters to stop meddling in his affairs. The episode ends as he gets an apology note and a cold compress to heal his eye from Ronnie Ann, showing that she really does like Lincoln. Episode 2B. One day, Lincoln desires to get a trophy for the family case like most of his sisters. Previously, he has tried and failed to win a running contest, a karate championship, and even a beauty pageant. No matter how hard he tries, he always ends up failing, probably because he has no talent at all. This time, he has found a very easy competition where he actually has a good chance of winning. He is entering a video contest where the video with the most likes wins the award. After a talk with Luan, he goes on to keep his video camera running whenever he sees his sisters doing something funny. First, he records Lynn stepping on a rake and falling into the tub while playing. Then he tapes Luna as she has a wardrobe malfunction. Later, he climbs a tree and secretly records Lucy talking to her vampire doll. After getting several clips of Lori farting, he records Lola's ugly sleeping face. Finally, Lincoln and Clyde find Lana picking up a used chewing gum from a trash can and record it too. After compiling the clips together in a single video, Lincoln posts it without their permission. A few days later, the video becomes quite a hit amongst his peers, but his sisters end up hating his guts because of the humiliation it causes them. He promises to delete the video immediately, but they refuse even to talk to him. Lucy even goes so far as to claim that she has no brother from now on. Devastated that he has been disowned by his sisters, Lincoln decides to make it up for them. The only one who is willing to help him is Luan. She provides him with embarrassing clips and moments of him, suggesting he use it in his next video. Reluctantly, Lincoln obliges and he replaces the old video with a compilation of his own fails. Just like before, the video quickly blows up and ends up gaining a lot of likes. Lincoln not only suffers a lot of humiliation, but he also loses to a pesky hamster video. The only good things that comes from this is the fact that his sisters forgave him. When he comes back home, they gather around him and motivate him to do better next time. Lucy even calls him brother. Finally, they give him a makeshift trophy, which makes him really happy. Episode 4A. So the Louds have a really old van that can fit all of them, and the condition of the seats are varying. This means Lincoln's quest is to obtain a spot that he thinks is best, or in his words, the sweet spot. The segment starts as Lincoln is packing up for a family trip the next day. He mentions each seat's problems and how he figured out which seat is the best. Anyway, his plan is to sleep in the van until morning. He contacts Clyde for small talk, and the latter asks who will be sitting next to him in the car. Lincoln finds this intriguing, so he goes inside to think. After a lot of contemplating, he figures that Lenny would be the best person to sit with in the car. Everything is solved and our hero is ready for the journey. But his friend Clyde once again asks an important question. Who will be sitting behind Lincoln? So he figures Lisa would be the best, even though she likes to talk about the dangers of car riding. Unfortunately, the girls find out that he was trying to get the best spot in the van, and this turns into a mess where the characters start fighting each other in the literal sense, causing the mother to make them stay in and not be anywhere near the van until 7 a.m. When it hits 7 a.m., they start an all-out battle with each other, causing the van to get destroyed. The trip is eventually cancelled and they now have to sit in the living room. Episode 4B. They have dinner where the kids Lynn and everyone older than her eat in the dining room while Lincoln and everyone younger than him eat in the kitchen. Lincoln would now rather eat at the adult table since he finds the kiddie table a bit annoying. He goes to Clyde for advice, which proves helpful since Clyde is an only child and therefore eats with his parents all the time. Up next, he attempts to act more mature, like drinking coffee, reading the newspaper, and watching fake C-SPAN and solving disputes between the younger kids and shaving his face. Clyde then shows him how to sit at the grown-up table. Later, Lincoln presents to his family why he should be sitting at the grown-up table and the parents say, yeah, sure, alright. Lincoln then finds out that he thought the other man's grass is always greener because the grown-up table isn't as much fun as he thought it was going to be. In reality, it's actually boring and redundant. The kiddie table gets dessert because grown-ups don't eat dessert or something. Because of this, Lincoln gets angry and he decides he doesn't want to eat at the grown-up table anymore. Episode 5A. Since Lincoln lives in a house with a large population of folks, mornings have got to be hard to get things done in a timely fashion. In this episode, Lincoln has finished a project for school, a diorama of his family. He worked on it very much and now has to get it to school in one piece. The episode shows Lincoln's strength of understanding everyone in his family to get everyone out of the door in the morning. He knows Luan's pranks. how to negotiate the twins fighting, work with Lynn's high energy playing, and Lisa's experiment and trying to get Lily to wear some clothes, Lucy's poem rhymes, and more. He's also good at knowing how his family members like their eggs, which is a nice touch. Of course, when things were looking good, there was a wrench in the plan because Lori's unhappy with her boyfriend, and then Lisa has to fix something that she did to cause Lenny to turn blue. Lincoln manages to get all his sisters in the car and fixes Lori's problem in a genius way. However, in the chaos, his diorama is destroyed. Although he is devastated by the loss, his sisters have a plan in mind, as they love Lincoln a lot. They go to his class and reenact the diorama. Though the teacher knocks off some points for the grade, it's still a happy ending. Episode 5B. Moving on, in episode 5, the family goes on a camping trip every year, but they don't seem to enjoy it. So Lincoln convinces his parents that the kids should get to decide where they want to go for this year's vacation. This time it's a split between the beach and a theme park called Dairyland. So anyway, 5 sisters pick Dairyland: Lynn, Luna, Lana, and Lisa, and Luan, and the other 5, Lori, Lenny, Lucy, Lily, and Lola, pick the beach, meaning it comes down to Lincoln for the final vote. I think we know where this is going. Oh no, here we go. The sisters start doing stuff for Lincoln to get him to lean to their side in the vote. Okay, now I definitely know where this is going. Lincoln worries, of course, that his answers will make half his sisters mad. However, due to the extra favors they are giving him, he decides to enjoy it for now. The next day, the sisters start trying to stab each other instead, eventually figuring out that Lincoln might be at fault for their fighting, which isn't wrong of them. To stop the argument, Lincoln decides that it would be best to ask his parents to go back to the original camping idea. The grown-ups agree, and in the end, the family ends up having a great time. Episode 6A. One day, Lincoln strives to read a comic book in peace and quiet, but can't accomplish his mission, no matter how hard he tries. There's always something to distract him, and this leaves him very annoyed and frustrated. Later, he comes across a commercial that promises silence, even from a massive crowd of 10,000 people. Lincoln then gets noise-begone earbuds to make it peaceful, and he can finally read his book. In the meantime, his sisters have some weird urge to walk into his room and talk to him. He then starts using the earbuds to tune out his sisters beyond the comic book, and what could go wrong? Lola then informs him the next day that he promised to do something for her at 3 p.m. that day. However, he doesn't know about it since he was wearing the earbuds. Lynn then comes in and uses him as a sparring partner because he promised. Lincoln then starts getting scared because Lola tends to be a little bit vengeful. He must have promised something to her yesterday, and if he doesn't do it, he is in trouble. Now, Lincoln starts thinking about what Lola was going to do that day, but when he can't come to a conclusion, he starts obeying all his sisters and doing chores for them. The sisters simply say that they are teaching him a lesson for ignoring them. In fact, everything was fake, and nothing ever happened yesterday, and this enrages Lincoln for a while, but he ends up forgiving his sisters. Moving on, episode 6B. Whoa, that was crazy. We got an episode about the hit video game Space Invaders. Moving on, in episode 6, Lincoln is the only boy in the family. Gee, you don't say. And unlike other sisters, he doesn't have to share a room with any of them, though I do wonder if he always sleeps in that closet. I wonder if he had to use that room like Lisa and Lily have, or the room Lana and Lola have. Like, did he have to share with Lynn at some point? The point of this is that he doesn't have to negotiate and share a room. Anyway, Lynn and Lucy start fighting with each other, and Lynn then decides that she wants to spend the night with Lincoln. She prefers to be more excitable and have fun in contrast to Lincoln's less excitable nature. This gives our hero a very hard night as he is unable to sleep. After some excruciating hours, the sun finally rises and it's morning, but Lincoln's problem is not over because Lucy and Lynn are still not getting along. He fears that he will have to share the room with his sister once again. So, on Clyde's suggestion, he decides to act like a bad roommate to get Lynn to leave his room. Ultimately, the plan doesn't work and Lynn decides to move in with Lincoln permanently. As the day passes, Lynn and Lucy start showing signs of missing each other. So Lynn decides to get those two back on good terms by getting them to dinner. At first, this doesn't go well, but Lincoln eventually hatches a plan and reconciles them, ending the episode on a high note. Episode 7A. Lincoln makes his parents coffee mugs every year for their anniversary. They don't look that good, but they're still serviceable because he makes them with pride. For some reason this year, his sisters criticize his mug workmanship. Lola accidentally lets it slip that their parents put their mugs in the attic every year. After seeing this is true, Lincoln decides to instead chart a new direction, a new concept, a new idea. He decides to make them a family photograph because the best anniversary gift is to remind them of what most likely started on their honeymoon night. So he takes a picture, but the siblings start fighting, creating chaos, and this results in the photo being ruined. Lincoln is displeased with this picture and wants to do it again. Also, apparently the Loud House has a really long hose that he could bring up to the second floor and wash his sister's face off with the water. So he starts regathering the sisters to redo the picture, and he makes Lisa take off her glasses and put glasses on Lenny, causing the two sisters to fall down the stairs. Lynn is easy to convince because she is apparently part dog in this episode. Lucy was easy to move by book, and he hides Luna's axe and Luan's funny glasses. After this, he puts him in the picture-perfect mode, and it seems to go well for him until he notices that A, his sisters are happier as themselves, and B, he looks miserable in the picture. Cut to the anniversary day, Lincoln gives his parents the original picture, which makes them very happy. Moving on to episode 8. Apparently it's a hot summer day and the Louds keep getting kicked out of the public pools because of their loud nature. Lincoln really just wanted to do a cannonball, so he decides to go to a store and get a family pool. But he imagines that things won't go the way that he wants, so instead he buys a pool called Paradise for One. After this, he tries putting the pool together, but he ends up screwing up every time and again, which makes this segment quite fun. At last, he eventually manages to set it up, but when he tries to do a cannonball, he finds Lenny and Lori in the pool. The other sisters join in on the fun as well, and Lincoln still hasn't got to his swimming. Enraged, he berates his sisters and kicks them out of the pool. He then starts swimming, which makes him happy for some time, but later he eventually starts to miss his sisters. To make matters worse, he finds out that they have their own separate pool now. When he goes to them with a sad face, surprisingly, they let him join. Lincoln then does his favorite cannonball thing and destroys the pool, bringing the episode to an end. Episode 8. Moving on in the episode, one day, Lincoln asks Lynn if she wants to read a comic book with him, but she refuses. He then asks Luan if she wants to watch a sci-fi film with him, but she also refuses. In the same manner, Lola refuses to play with his coin collection, and Lucy with ghost hunting. And Lana refuses to eat peanut butter sandwiches with him. And it seems that all the sisters don't want anything to do with him. After a bit of thinking, Lincoln figures that Lily doesn't have any interest, so maybe he could mold her to his interest. Later, he shows her his likes. Not sure about showing coins to a baby there, Lincoln. Anyways, also, why does Lincoln have sauerkraut and peanut butter together? Nobody wants to know. I don't know. The interactions between the two are quite sweet nonetheless. However, when the other sisters find out about this, they also try to get Lily by their side. They want her to learn their interest and become like them. Eventually, all the siblings start fighting over the little girl. Yes, most of this episode is them trying to get Lily to be with them, and in the end, Lincoln decides that Lily maybe should decide for herself. Remember Clyde existing? Yes, he shows up and puts on a diaper and baby bonnet. He also has Lily's blanket and she crawls to him. And Lincoln tells his sisters that they can't mold Lily. She has to have her own likes after all. And this brings the episode to a heartwarming ending. Episode 9A. Overnight success. Lincoln marks a special date on his calendar, sleepover night. He's excited but remembers not all Loud House sleepovers go smoothly. He flashes back to a wild one where Lynn's soccer practice ended with broken vases and windows. And in another flashback, Lenny's sleepover causes a blackout in the whole neighborhood thanks to several blow dryers and curling irons operating at the same time. And also, when Luna had a sleepover, one of her rock star friends locked her father out of the house. Following this, he gives a video presentation to his parents on why he should be allowed to have a sleepover. The video contains recordings of him trying to help others, displaying his responsibility and reliable nature. Eventually, the parents agreed for a sleepover, and he immediately calls Clyde up. However, Lincoln's sleepover gets off to a rough start. He has planned a huge itinerary, including a 5-hour sci-fi movie, which makes the schedule incredibly tight. Slowly, he starts putting more care into keeping to it than having fun with his best friend. It gets even worse when Lincoln's sisters offer some fun ways to make Clyde's night at the Loud House exciting. Clyde attends Luan's stand-up comedy show, which ends up with Luna's guitar solo. Meanwhile, Lincoln tries to drag him back to his sleepover schedule. But they are ambushed by other Loud sisters, who begin to engage Clyde in several activities. Fed up, Lincoln starts complaining about how much time they are wasting instead of sticking to his schedule. Eventually, the two friends have an argument over how the sleepover should go, and they have a falling out. To spite Clyde, Lincoln brings over some of his other schoolmates to sleep over with him, but his sisters' antics drive them all away one by one. Lincoln finally realizes that not only does Clyde tolerate his sisters, but also likes them as well. He then feels guilty about the way he treated his best friend and goes over to his house to apologize. However, as he tries to, the lumps under Clyde's bed covers don't move, making Lincoln believe his friend is giving him the silent treatment. Lincoln goes back to the house disappointed, only to discover that Clyde never actually left the house. Turns out he passed out from seeing Lori like he always does and couldn't leave the Loud House. Clyde tells Lincoln that the lumps in his bed were actually his stuffed animals and explains that with being an only child, he can kind of get lonely. The two friends make up, and Lincoln tears up his itinerary. The night ends with Lincoln, Clyde, and the girls gathered on the couch to watch King of the Rings together. Moving on to episode 9B, Ties That Bind. One typical Saturday morning at the Loud House, Lincoln maneuvers and dodges his sister's destructive antics on his way to the bathroom. Here, he hears his parents having an argument through the air vent. His mother, Rita, is demanding that Lynn Sr. should get rid of all 11 by tomorrow for garbage day. Lincoln believes that she's talking about him and his sisters and runs out of the bathroom to tell them. But what he doesn't know is that his mother is asking his father to get rid of the collection of novelty neckties. On the other hand, the girls refuse to believe him and call him paranoid, but when Lori listens to the argument out of context, they're convinced. Believing their wild and crazy natures are to blame, they decide to work together to give up their vices and clean up the house. Afterwards, they hear their parents again through the vent, and it appears that Rita has decided that she won't get rid of them all. Instead, she will only let Lynn Sr. keep one, as they decide which ones they should get rid of. They single the kids out one by one until, apparently, it leaves Lincoln as the one they'll keep. Lincoln is ecstatic as he will finally be an only child, much to his sister's fury. As his sisters leave to pick up their things, Lincoln hears Lynn Sr. saying that he can't pick a favorite. Rita begs him to get rid of at least one. Lynn Sr. decides to get rid of the one with the white hair. Believing that he's getting kicked out, Lincoln sadly goes to pack up his belongings and prepares to run away from home. In the meantime, he gives his sisters all of his most prized possessions. Feeling sorry for their only brother, the girls decide to confront their parents about the issue. When they go into their parents' room, the kids finally find out they were really talking about ties. They confess to their parents about their assumptions, and in response, they reassure their children that they wouldn't think of getting rid of them. As they leave the room, Lincoln sees Lynn Sr. in the Easter tie and thinks that yeah, he should get rid of it. The next Saturday, Lincoln and his sisters resume their usual antics, having learned to never eavesdrop again. However, when Lincoln hears his father complaining about his wife having a bun in the oven, he assumes the worst and runs out to tell his sisters. Episode 10A, A Hand-Me-Down. Lincoln has just received an old hand-me-down bicycle from Lori, but he's afraid to ride it because it's pink, frilly, and has a custom plate she made with his name on it. And just then, a group of kid bikers named Papa Wheelie, Flat Tire, and Rusty Spokes show up and deride the bike. To avoid being teased, Lincoln claims that his real bike is in the shop. They fall for the lie, but the bikers want him to come by to the park with his bike to show it off. After they ride away, Lincoln panics about the humiliation he will face. But then he gets an idea when Lynn returns home riding her BMX bike. He decides that he will borrow it without Lynn's knowledge, showing it off to the bikers and return it before she finds out. Later at the park, Lincoln shows up on Lynn's bike. The bikers are so impressed that they elect him to be their new leader, much to Papa Wheelie's chagrin. Lincoln, who now dubs himself Chain Link, leads the bikers around town and gains the attention of some locals, all this while he still hasn't told Lynn about using her bike. Unfortunately, that afternoon, when Lincoln comes back to his bike from getting an ice cream, he discovers that it has been stolen. At the house, he attempts to tell Lynn the truth, but finds out that she plans on riding the bike in a stunt competition. Now even more afraid to tell her, he tells her that he'll tune it up for her, giving himself time to search for the stolen bike. He goes around town searching for it on the pink hand-me-down bike. This embarrassing side of him riding it, makes the locals lose respect for him. During his search, he encounters the bikers again, but decides that he can't live his lie anymore. Lincoln confesses that the pink bike is his, and that the cool bike was his sister's, causing the bikers to dump him as their leader. Finally, Lincoln confesses to Lynn what happened to her bike. She is furious at him for getting her bike stolen. When Lincoln tells her that he took it so that he wouldn't ride Lori's hand-me-down, Lynn reveals that her bike was also a hand-me-down. It first belonged to Lenny when she was a kid. Then it was modified by Luna to be a punk bike with a sidecar, and again modified by Luan to be a unicycle. Lori points out that they've all experienced getting hand-me-downs, but over time, they've learned to make the best of it. At first, Lincoln tries, pointing out that Lori, as the oldest, doesn't have to deal with getting hand-me-downs like him and the rest of their sisters. But Lori explains that she gets hand-me-downs as well. For example, the tank top she wears is actually made from an old girdle that used to belong to their mom. Realizing that she has no choice, Lynn goes to the competition with the pink hand-me-down bike. Later that same day, Clyde comes by the house with the cool bike that his parents found while they were antiquing. Lincoln hopes to give it to Lynn before the competition starts. Just then, Lynn comes home with the pink bike and a first-place trophy, and she tells Lincoln that she's starting to like the pink bike and that he can keep the cool bike. She also reveals that she's the new member of the biker gang and receives the nickname Linsanity. Afterward, Lincoln decides to hand the cool bike down to Lana, who decides to make some changes to it herself. Sometime later, Lincoln joins Clyde in riding his parents' tandem bike while also making good use of the hand-me-downs he got. Lincoln explains to the viewers that thanks to his sisters, he's learned that when you get hand-me-downs, you've got to make the best of them.